Welcome to another episode of the Second Mix podcast. My name is Matt Bennett. Our guest today is Nate Turner. He is an author and so much more. And he asked the question, why don't we start with who instead of starting with why? And he gets into explaining himself. It was an eye-opening interview, to say the least. I really enjoyed it. We had a great time. I think you're really going to love this one. We'll get right to it in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Welcome to the Second Mix podcast, where we reflect, revise, and remix our lives. I love to talk about things that matter with people who care, and I'm here today with a dose of self-development to help make you better, stronger, and wiser. My name is Matt Bennett, and I'm bringing you some old school personal development from the original masters of motivation, as well as interviews with entrepreneurs, authors, coaches, and consultants, anyone who has a mission of making things better. Nate, I just read through your bio again and the message that you sent to me on Podmatch. I am seriously interested in journaling, but first, let me ask you, what do you do?
What do I do? Professionally, for 25 years, a little more than 25 years, I've run my own financial planning practice. That's what I've done for 25 years. I wouldn't say it's what I do. It's what I've done to provide for my family. What I do today is work each day to make sure that when my time on this planet is up, I am who I want to appear as on my obituary, spoken in my eulogy, and written as the last words on my testament.
Wow. Okay. That sounds fascinating. So how do you work each day to do that?
So I have this belief that the word who is our most important word on the planet. And I think it's an understated word. So I'll take, if you will, I'll take a little bit of time to explain.
Please.
For a while, we were spending a lot of time, we still do, talking about our why. I hear people all the time saying, why this, why that. Simon Sinek wrote, great leaders begin and end with why. And then the world seemed to say, everybody need to find their why. And I think it's a misguided approach to the way we should be looking at life. Maybe great leaders should look at why, maybe not. But what I think we should be asking ourselves is who we are and who we would like to be when our time is up. I'm not going to be here to write my obituary. I'm not going to be here to give my eulogy. If I was, that's going to be a very different funeral service if I'm there in the room. I'm not going to go in and make sure that the last words that appear on my tombstone or my urn, that's not going to be me. Who's going to do that? The people who I leave. And how I treated those people is going to determine who those people say I am and who I get to be for the remainder of eternity. They're going to write those last statements. So for me, that's what I'm attempting to do every day. When I'm done with you, if you're the last conversation that I have, and you could be, I don't know, right? No, tomorrow's not promised, the next moment's not promised. I want to make sure that you knew that I was a guy who was willing to help you, that you knew I was a guy willing to help serve the things that you thought that mattered. And I want you to know that I'm a guy who believed that you matter. And so if I don't do a good job, then I fail being who I want to be when my time is up.
Wow. That got pretty deep.
I apologize.
No, that's good. Please don't apologize for that. So when we talk about you saying who is the most important, would you say that how you see it? Do you see it as who, not just who I am, but who can I help? Who, like, out to other people too? When I ask myself who, right, I can say, who are the people in my life that I need to be taking care of?
Sure. The thing is, this other part of who is this, that the best way I can explain it is this. If you ask me what kind of father I am, I might tell you I'm the greatest father in the history of the world. And then you say, well, what does your son think? And I'd say, I believe my son thinks I'm the greatest father in the history of the world. And then you'd meet my son, he'd say, oh no, he's an absolute. Who am I? I'm my son's father. So the son gets to decide what kind of father I am. The father doesn't get to decide what kind of father he is. The son decides. And my son is going to be the one who leaves the message or the record, assuming that things go in the order that it usually goes, to say who I was. So I don't think that we are who we think we are. We're not who we believe others think we are. We are solely who we are in relationship to the people that matter to us.
Wow. This is great stuff, because I'm usually not at a loss for words, but you've thrown me into a paradigm shift. All this time, I've been doing the Simon Sinek thing and trying to find my why and trying to help people find their why. And sometimes I get to a point where I tell them it just wasn't all that important, your why. If people say, I don't know my why, I don't know what I want to be 10 years from now, I'm like, then just do what you can to be the best you can be right now. And
so you've been telling them who too. You just
yes, I did not know that. So it's not actually a paradigm shift. It's just a shift of the descriptive words.
Yeah, I think your why, real quickly, is so I was married in 1993.
Okay.
And I was in law school. So why did I need to finish law school? Because I had promised a woman that I was going to be a lawyer, and she had an expectation of a kind of lifestyle she was going to live. So that was my why. But then we had a child. And okay, what is your why now? I don't want to be a lawyer, but I got to find a way still to take care of my family. So I guess my point that I'm making is that your why, you could stay in the same occupation and your why could change. But I started as a practice because I need to take care of a family. Then I had a practice so I could take care and do my family wanted to do things. Then I had to work because I wanted to save money for retirement. But when you save enough money for retirement and do those things, why are you still working? Your why has changed. Who you are, to my point earlier, seems to be the much more important thing for us to be considering.
So when you do your journal every morning, do you think about who?
Absolutely. I think about who I want to be when my life is over. I think about who I want to be if I could live my best life in the moment.
Okay. So have you ever written out your eulogy or what you'd want it to be, something that you're striving towards?
I have.
Okay.
And I've also asked, more importantly, I've asked my son to write it.
Okay. Wow.
I asked him, who do you want your father to be when my time is up? And here's who I want to be. Now tell me if you think I'm on course to make that happen. If not, let's start thinking about what I need to do to course correct.
Wow. That could have been a hard thing for you.
To hear it? No. In some ways, yes. But I grew up with a father who I'm almost 20 years. We probably had 4 or 5 conversations. And at first I missed my father. I missed the aspect of having a father that Hallmark told me I needed to have. And then one day I woke up and realized that all I was doing was missing the opportunity to be the kind of father that Hallmark said my son could have. And then that changed everything.
Okay.
And the only way that I could change that was to ask the person who I was his father, how are you feeling about our relationship? Something my father would have never asked me. You just say, you do as I say, and I didn't have a father. This is the best I can do. And I'm like, yo, this is terrible. This is not the best you could do. You could do better. You could just ask me. I can tell you how to do it better. So I thought I'll do that with my child.
That is excellent. So at what age should I start asking? My kids are 7 and 4. What age should a 7-year-old? Sure. What the 4-year-old?
Right now, you can ask simple enough questions that if you're a 4-year-old can ask.
He'd tell me I don't bring him enough candy. I never give him candy.
He might tell you that. But he might tell you some other very instructional things. My son, when he was 2, told me he wanted mail. And honestly, I told everyone, and I know it may seem a little cliche and it may feel redundant, but I'm here having this conversation with you because a child once told me that he wanted mail. And because he wanted mail, I started writing him letters. And I wrote him enough letters that when he was 16 and left the country and he moved to Brazil, I gave him some of the letters in a binder. And while he was there, I went to Rio for a few days because every man should go to Rio by himself. And I stayed in Rio for a few days while he was at the academy. My wife called and said, he wasn't doing well. You're going to have to go back. Long story short, I go back to the academy to see him. I'm expecting him to have his bags packed, ready to come back to America. He says, he's got a big smile on his face. I'm like, why are you smiling? He said, I got a question for you. I said, yeah, I got a question for you too. I paid $415 to get a cab ride back here and your bags are not packed. He said, no, Dad, you gave me the binder with the letters. Did you put the letters in any particular order? And I said, no. I said, why? He said, I reread the first 3 letters you wrote me. I remember my purpose. I'm going to be fine. Whenever I do return, we're going to take these letters, Dad. We're going to publish them and share them with other families because not only do I believe you when you tell me I can do something, I know what's supposed to happen. And every child should have an opportunity to read these kind of letters. So he published them. And
wow.
That is the reason that I'm here with you today because my son published these letters, and people were like, what's the big deal about you writing your son letters? And I didn't know at the time, but I was the only second father in the history of the world to write their son letters over the history of their child's lifetime.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So with that, did you ever do that exercise with your wife to say, I want to be the best husband in the world, but you're the only one that can decide that. So can you tell me what I need to do to be a better husband?
I did not do the exercise as formally as I have with my son, but I've asked and had those conversations with my wife. Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah. Good. I've been thinking about having some like once a month war room conversations with my wife just to say, hey, if this gets heated, it gets heated, but we need to talk about some things.
I asked my wife this. I asked her, are you date ready? That's the question we have. It's just, are you date ready? Which is to say, if you were single today, would you be the person that people would swipe right or swipe left?
Okay. Right.
And because what we do sometimes when we get married is, I don't know how long you've been married. I've been married 29 years. We get settled into being something other than what we promised that we would be when we started. Like my wife and I promised ourselves that we would stay fit. We had this thing, we called it FAF, which was fat and fired. If you get X number of pounds overweight, like these are grounds for termination. It seemed utterly ridiculous to our friends and so forth. But it was like drawing a line in the sand about some standards that we wanted the other person to uphold. Then we get comfortable in relationships and we forget those standards. So I'd ask her, and she could ask me, are you date ready? Are you the best version of you that you could be? Are you presenting that version to me? If you're not, then you're cheating me. Why would you get ready for a date for somebody you don't know and not be ready for the person who you said you dedicated your life to be with?
Wow. Okay. I like that.
You can tell your wife I said it and you can stay out of trouble.
I will just say, hey, let's watch this interview. Sometimes after an interview, I call her in and say, we're going to rewatch this right now together to sit here so that you can hear everything I just heard, so that when I say something, you know where it's coming from.
Yes, it's not you. We did for, I don't know, about the first 15 years of our son's life, until he left home at 16. We used to have an annual family retreat. So at the beginning of every year, we would create our family mission statement, a mission vision statement, and to make sure that what we wanted to happen, if we were still on track for that. So we'd set 10-year goals every year, 5-year goals, 3-year goals, what we hope to happen in the year, what we hope to happen in the 6 months. And we asked the child to do that too. So the three of us would do that.
Okay. Wow. That's probably something I should start doing together, is start setting family goals too. I like that idea.
Yeah, you'll be surprised. Your 4-year-old and your 7-year-old have these big, audacious hopes and dreams, and they'll be on track to make them happen. The only thing that'll happen is we sabotage them.
Okay. Yeah, I've found that to be the case. It's, I've got to watch what I say about the things that my kids want and not ever tell them that something is unrealistic.
Absolutely. Think about this. I'm a guy who grew up in Gary, Indiana, grew up in a home that very marginal, very meager existence, broken, battered, abusive home, and grandparents that didn't go to high school, parents who just finished high school, and I went off to school and earned 3 degrees. And now have a son who, 16, left the country, could speak 4 languages, tested in the top 1%. And all of those things happen because you refuse to believe that nothing's impossible.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So it does sound like you doing some forward thinking every morning in your journals is helpful.
Yeah, absolutely.
It sounds like it's guiding your life.
Absolutely. It's most certainly is a guide. And when you don't have a guide, I didn't have a guide before. But what I did, Matt, is I was giving my son tools and strategies and techniques to make his life great, and I wasn't applying them to myself.
Okay.
And one day I had an opportunity to speak to some students in California. And the students, and I was explaining to them that every day I asked, my son's name is Nathaniel, I asked him to get up and I asked him to affirm who he is and write this stuff in the journal. And he's been journaling and visualizing stuff since he was 4. And they were like, wow, this is really cool. He's here in the room with us too. And then they said, do you do it? And I was like, no. I don't. I don't. Right. I've been just getting by being lucky. And Seneca says luck is where preparation and opportunity meet. And I'm like, I probably could do a better job of being better prepared for the next opportunity. I'm sure I've had some opportunities that I weren't prepared for, and thus I wasn't as lucky as I could have been. So I started applying what it was I was asking my son to do. I created a vision board for myself that I never had before. And then I had it produced. One that was like 5 feet by 6 feet, and one that was 4 feet by 5 feet, and one that went over my bed that's 3 foot by 4 foot, and one that's on my mirror, and it's on my phone, and it's on my computer screen. And so it had all these things that I wanted people to know me as when my time is up. And I've been chasing those things on the vision board. And so daily I write, and oftentimes it ends up being about something that's on the board.
Okay. So let me ask you about that process. Do you have any system that you use to write in the journal? Any pattern that you follow that you wrote out that says, I think about this first, I think about this second, etc.?
Yeah. I'll send you a book. It's called Journey Forward. So I wish I'd have thought about it. I would send it to you before, so you can see it. What I do is I'm not a neuroscientist, but I do know enough of the stuff about what to do with the brain to maybe explain it in a lay person's form, that we have 60 to 70,000 thoughts every day. 90% of those thoughts are things that we thought the previous day. The only way to think something differently is to intentionally program your mind to think differently. So what I do when I wake, I try my best, although I don't have to do it as much anymore. I've mastered this part. I try not to talk to anybody. I try not to receive any thoughts, any words from email. I don't turn on the TV to see what's going on with the news and whatever. And I just sit quietly and I'll hear something and then I'll go write about it.
Okay.
And I'll set the clock. It used to be 14 minutes. It's closer to 20. And I'll just write stream of consciousness, whatever comes to my mind.
Okay.
But because I've been doing it so much, I know that there are some themes that are going to appear in almost every journal. I'm going to talk about helping, serving, and making sure other people know that their lives matter. I'm going to talk about this group of people that I call the least of us. I know the Bible says the least of those. I say the least of us because I don't want to exclude myself from being amongst the least. That kind of thing changes the way, like you're looking down at people and talking down to people. No, I'm not. I'm right with you. So those things will appear. You'll hear me talk about my physical health. You'll hear me talk about financial health, but not when I talk about wealth. I'll talk about it, but it's not like everyone else talks about wealth. Wealth for me means not owing anybody. Wealth for somebody else is an accumulation of assets, so much so that I deprive other people from having stuff. That's not. I don't want to owe anybody. So those things up here, and then about wisdom. And so then when I'm thinking about that, I'm imagining, hey, maybe I imagine having a conversation with Matt. And I might, in my mind, have the conversation in the journal about the conversation I had with you.
Okay.
Or interviewed and speak to Cornel West, or interviewed and I'm speaking on Fox News or whatever. And that's what I do every day.
Okay. So when you write this out and then you go on with your day, do you feel that it does change your mindset? It changes the way you think about things, and it focuses your thinking on what you're supposed to be?
I do think it makes you chase your words. So you can't write it. So you can think it to yourself and not share it and not say it. When you write it, it does something different. And then when you write it and share it with other people, then now these other people are calling on you to be true to what you said. So daily now, there are about, 50 to 100 people who read these journals that I do. And so people like you would say, hey, what are you doing? And I'd say, hey, I'm writing this journal. And they say, what does it look like? And I'm like, fine, I'll send it to you. And then I'll send it to some folks and they just say, keep sending them. Like, hey, don't stop. So I kept sending them. And a friend of mine, her name is Dr. Robin Henderson Wilson. She said, I read these every morning right after I read my daily bread. And she said, it feels like the same thing, although you have a slightly different style. I said, don't worry, I'm not, it's not intended to be a religious document. But she says, hey, you should write action items and you should put reflection statements. And so I said, Robin, I'm not doing any of that. It's enough for me to get up every day and write these for this 20 minutes. And then now I got to proof it because now he want to read it. And I said, but if you want to do it, have at it. And about a year later, she had 55 entries and it became the book.
Okay.
And then she said, after hearing Will Smith's book, him reading his book, she says, and she, my wife, my mom, my son, other folks start saying, you know what? You should do the same thing. So now it's an audio version. So now I write it, and then I do an audio version of the journal as well.
All right.
To music and whatever each morning.
Nice. Just a side note, is this stuff public? Is this stuff that my listeners could get a hold of in any way?
I'm going to send it to you. You and I can maybe talk about how to do it. I've been told that I need to do something else with it. I need to find a way to make it available to other people. I'm happy to do it. I just never thought of it like that. This was just about my own mental health and figuring out how not to be caught living in the past and how to stay present and be hopeful for the future. I never thought about anybody else would care to see it or read it or listen to it, but now it appears that I was wrong. So yeah, I hopefully will turn it into a podcast or something where people can listen to it on a daily basis.
Right. No, I love it, man. I've got so many questions for you. This is amazing. I'm a big journaler and I'm a big fan of having journals. I started in 2019. Jim Rohn talked about journaling a lot, and it just inspired me to go get it. I did it that day and I haven't stopped. After you write these, you said you had your friend talk about you should be writing action statements and setting your goals and making your checklists and all that kind of stuff. And you're like, I don't need that. But you also seem like a guy who gets things. You do the things that need. So you weren't worried about that because you're already getting things done.
Sure.
Does you getting up in the morning and getting focused on the future help with that?
The journaling?
Does the journaling help with your to-do list, let's say?
Yeah. There's two things that I primarily want to do. You said, when you asked me earlier, you said, Nate, what do you do? The things that I want to do, I don't want to be known as a financial advisor. That is not to say I don't want to dismiss it. It's been a fine career. I've forged really good relationships. I've been a part of a process helping people have helped themselves, and I am just a tool that people use to get to another place. I'm not a guy who says, look how much money you built working with me. No, you went to work every day, Matt, not me. All you did was call me and ask me to help you strategically allocate your portfolio or to put stuff in a bucket or whatever. And I tell people sometimes a monkey could do that. So then monkeys do pick stocks, and generally they do better than people on Wall Street.
I've read that.
So I'm like, that I haven't done anything fabulous. I've maintained great relationships with people. That part has been good. What I want to do moving forward, I just want to write and I just want to speak. I want to have interesting conversations with people like you as often as possible. I want to be able to go places and speak in front of large audiences and help people do things that allow them to live their life just as they always imagine. But that's what I want to do. So the writing in the journal helps me with that because every day I'm writing. And you can't be a great writer if you don't write. So every day I'm writing. And now the audio versions, I think, help me with speaking, because if you're going to speak all the time, you have to have practice speaking. So now I'm doing these journals and there's no one in the room. So in some ways, it's a little bit like performance art. I'm checking my cadence and how I enunciate words and pausing for creative reflection and all that kind of stuff. So it is very helpful to me.
Yeah, that's going to make you a better and better public speaker, and that's going to be awesome. So how much, before I move on, like I said, I got a million questions for you.
Go ahead.
I want to do a sidebar. I want to get some advice from you. Is that all right? Is that okay? You can just give me your best advice.
Man, it's cool. Go ahead.
Coach me for a second. So I was writing on paper journals.
Okay.
And I loved it. Okay. And at the end of every single journal, I can't remember what they're called. It's a German name, 1917 it sounds. But anyway, at the very end, I would have my kids take the last 2 pages and write something or draw something or whatever. So for the last 3 years, at the end of every journal, I've got something from my kids in there on the back page. And sometimes I let them write in it just in the middle. but it's definitely, I can go through the back page of any of my journals. Then I bought an iPad with an Apple Pencil, and I love it. And I started doing all that stuff where I'm like, yeah, really cool journal entry with like bullets and little pictures, and there's a lot of stuff highlighted and all that. And I've been doing that and having so much fun. And now it's like for the last 3 months, really, it's been 3 months. I've spent far too much of mental power on this issue, but it is a struggle back and forth between a paper journal and the iPad. What would you have to say about that?
I don't write on paper. My handwriting is too illegible that, that at times I have to go, I'm like, what exactly did I write? Because if in the stream of consciousness, I'm just trying to hurry up and get something down. And then so I'm like, okay, I don't even know what I wrote. So now I write it in a Word document. Okay. And when I'm done, I transfer it to this app called Journey. And so it uploads everything to the cloud. And then the people who read the journal, I just send it to them in an email and attach a link for the audio version of it. Okay. Wow. But you got something really cool. And it was like, the first thing I thought of was like the journey with my kids, or me and the kids' journey. And it's your journal about what you were doing and them drawing images. And you probably could have discussions about what's going through your mind that particular day, or what your children were thinking about on that particular day, for families to reflect on that themselves. Yeah. I think I might have answered my own question. I really think I remember when my 7-year-old saw that I was journaling on the iPad, she got sad. Oh, because she loved paper. Right. She loved doing it on paper. And she journals, not consistently. I should probably train her to do it consistently and remind her. And I think she's just following her dad's footsteps by journaling. So when she saw me doing it on the iPad, she was sad. And I'm thinking, you know what? It's probably worth it just for my daughter's sake that I just keep doing it on paper. You can always give her paper and she can still do the images for you. Right. I could, but I don't know. There's something organic about paper. This is my struggle. Really. I tell myself, if this is the worst thing I'm worried about, I got a pretty good life. Say, don't complicate it, because when you're done and you decide to publish it, whoever you or the publisher will figure out a way to get the images. That's true. So in your note to me, as we initially started this conversation, you said that journaling helps kind of stave off depression. Is that something that you've struggled with? Yeah, I was first diagnosed as being depressed in 1995, and I want to say in November of 1995. And the solution for it at the time was to put me on some kind of medication. I think at the time it would have been probably Prozac or Ritalin, because it seems like that's what every doctor was prescribing for everybody, for everything. Yes. And I said, no, I know why I'm depressed. I have this job that I can't stand. I work for some people that I detest. The answer is not going to be found in a pill. The answer is going to be found in me finding some alternative things to do until I can find another job. So I started exercising, because I learned about what it does with your endorphins. I changed my diet some. I started to do everything. I just started to do some different things to help me to move along. In 2008, had a similar depressive period. One of my very closest friends committed suicide. I felt responsible. With his birthday and my birthday are the same day. Wow. So after my son's birthday, which is June 27th, my birthday is July 15th. Between June 27th and July 15th, the levels of depression just kept dropping further and further, to like not wanting to get out of bed. I wouldn't want to talk to anybody the whole night. And one day I found the stuff about journaling. Here I am with these students, and I'm asking my son, hey, don't let tomorrow beat you twice. Yesterday beat you twice. Okay. Yeah, I love it. Yesterday, it's done. And to borrow from Rafiki in The Lion King, when he hit Simba in the back of the head, he said, what's that for? He says, it doesn't matter. It was in the past. And so that's what journaling then allowed me to do. Okay, I tried to do it. I tried to journal the way most people journal, which is oftentimes what didn't go right. It was so aggravating me. This didn't go right to yesterday or today, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I'm not going to do that. All I'm doing is carrying yesterday forward. I'm just letting yesterday beat me again, or I'm being deluded by the fact that I had a great day. Because I had a great day yesterday has no bearing on what's going to happen today. And so I started to journal differently. And okay, I'm going to journal based upon what I want my life to be, no matter what else is going on. And that's been hugely helpful.
Okay.
I apologize again if that's a long answer.
That is an excellent answer. The length doesn't really matter. It was quality. It was quality, right? I think it was helpful to a lot of people. And I love the phrase, don't let yesterday beat you twice. That's a beautiful thought to have floating around in your head. There are times that I wish I've written down the thoughts that I like to have floating around in my head. And I do just letting the negative ones fly by. I've learned from a lot of actually being coached on this podcast to be, how do I want to say it? Like the Zen meditation thing. Now, I don't really meditate, but I do let the thought come and just observe it. Mm-hmm. Realize that thought is not me. It's just a thought, and then let it go. And so that has helped. But don't let yesterday beat you twice. That's in there now forever. Just so you know, that's such a... Never heard it?
Mine. I think I've heard someone else say it. I may not have said it exactly like that, but the point of it's the past. There's nothing we can do about the past. We can learn from it. We can hopefully improve upon, but there's nothing you can. It's over. It's just nothing you can do about it. I was sharing. I think you can see it now. I was sharing the vision board. I wanted you to see that. Yeah, there's that.
That is excellent. Wow.
Let me get rid of me for a second so you can see it.
You take a screenshot of that. I have thought about making a vision board, and I have just not done it yet. I went the website designer Wix.
Designer Wix. No,
it's called Wix, Wix. But anyway, it's a really easy website designer, and they give it to you. They give it to you for free if you let them put their ad at the top. So I used that as a free website, and I just created my own private vision board on the website.
Okay.
So that I can go down and scroll through the pictures and stuff. But I think that just like with the electronic journal or the paper journal, I think having an actual vision board, being a physical presence in your life, in my life at least, Absolutely. Is going to be more beneficial than something that I could forget to do. If I've got a 5x5 board behind my computer screen, right. Can't avoid it. I can't be like, I don't feel like scrolling through that thing today that I made.
Cannot. And an interesting thing also that goes along with it is that the people in your life will see it, and they will look at it, and they will hold you accountable to it.
Have you had instances where, let's say your wife knew what you wanted and she was holding you accountable because you weren't doing anything about it?
All the time. It's not just her, it's everybody. So I'll say in my journal, I'm here to help serve and make sure others know their lives matter. And then I'll be somewhere and someone will say, I'm like, man, I don't. And they're like, yo, but you're here to help serve and make people know their lives are better. I'm like, oh my God, make it stop already. So yeah, it appears. So you are going to be a Pulitzer Prize winning writer, huh? So did you write today? Nate, we didn't get a journal today. Did you write today? Yeah, but I just didn't share. If you're going to be a Pulitzer Prize, like you got to write and people have to read it. So hurry up, send it over. You didn't do an audio journal today, Nate. Are you okay? Yeah, I'm fine. I was out of town. We're waiting. Or you're back now, so you can do the audio journal. Yeah, so people will hold you. They will hold you to it.
Okay, that's beautiful. So to me, that's a beautiful thing. What you were just describing, having your friends and your network holding you accountable, but even to the point where if you don't do something, they're like, hey, you okay? You didn't do your...
Yeah, and surprisingly, what ends up happening is it becomes a reciprocal relationship that now they're saying, okay, not only we're holding you accountable, but you've inspired us to create our own vision board. You've inspired me to want to lose 10 pounds. You've inspired me to, I'm like, okay, to do something that I always said I wanted to do, but I always made excuses for not doing it. And I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur and start my own business, and I've not done it. And now I'm going to at least try. I've done this. Or met a friend, a woman who took a little course that we created, and she published her first book. And so that was something that she wanted to do. So yeah, the journal, the vision board now made other people hold me accountable, but then also give me the chance to help hold other people accountable.
Wow. I love it. I think you have inspired me because I've had this vision board thing hanging on my head for a year and a half. And it's now or never, baby. We're just going to make it happen.
And if you want, I've got a template. So if you want a template, I have a template that's I use a publisher, but I wrote myself a script on writing my vision board. And I'm happy to share it with you if you're interested in it.
I would absolutely love to see that. Right. That would be spectacular. Nate, if you had 43 seconds and you had the entire world on the line and they were all going to understand what you said, what would you tell them?
Other than that we're all living our eulogy and we have to decide right now who we want to be when our time is up.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. And just go for it. Short and sweet. Absolutely amazing. You got the other 42 seconds to chat with them and stuff. Say, how you guys doing?
Do something else. I had an interesting conversation several years ago with someone from TED. She's I think the national curator from TED. And I saw her at an event. And I was walking towards her to ask her a question, and she looks at me and says, "I'll give you 3 seconds." I'm just like, I don't have a 3-second speech. I got an elevator speech. I got a 30-second speech, but not a 3-second speech. So I went back and I'm like, I got to figure out a 3-second speech. And I did. I wrote her a 3-second speech and mailed her a stopwatch that I set for 3 seconds.
Beautiful.
Right. So yeah, you gave me 43. You gave me way more time.
That was excellent. No,
I've been coached on that.
That's perfect. You nailed it. I really appreciate it.
I don't have a particular goal other than to be of service. And again, like I said, I know it sounds cliche. I do think that there are things I have that I do that can be helpful to people. The difficulty that I find is that we have so much noise going on and so many people that propose to be experts in something that you oftentimes can't lend your assistance to people. And that's all I want to do. Matt, I have a son. I talk about him a lot. I'm here with you again because of him, but because I had the foresight before he was born to write Harvard for an application, to use the application from Harvard to backward design that child's life, such that when my son was 16, he met the academic qualifications of Harvard. He tested in the top 1%. He was fluent in 4 languages, conversational in 2 other languages. Had started his own foundation as a 14-year-old and decided that he didn't want to go to college. He wanted to go off and chase his dream of playing professional soccer. He moved to Brazil. He played soccer in Brazil and in Germany. When he returned, he said, I'm ready to go to school. He applied to 31 of America's top engineering schools. He was accepted to 27 of them. He had scholarships from all of them. Has $10.8 million in scholarship money that this one person had. And he attended Santa Clara University. He turned down attending schools like Stanford and so forth. He goes to Santa Clara because Santa Clara's dean, the associate provost, and engineering professors all meet with him to tell him what they thought he could accomplish. In 4 years, he earns 3 science degrees: computer engineering, computer science, electrical engineering. He then applies for a PhD. He gets accepted by 7 of the nation's top PhD programs. They all offer him full fellowships. He's getting ready to start his 5th year at Carnegie Mellon. That's another $7 million. So it's like $17.8 million. And that's what I've been trying to share. That's what I started off trying to share with parents. I said, listen, we did it. I'm a nobody. I'm a kid from Gary who's the best I was expected to do was go work in the steel mill or join the military. I've raised this child who's lived an incredible life. Let us just show you how to do it. But there's so much noise around that you can't get people ordinarily to listen to share. So that's all I've been wanting to do. It's just, I can't give back to people, Matt. There are 5 people who helped me in my life. I tell parents that they should create this thing, and that you and I should have this thing called a starting 5, that all of us need at least 5 people in our life. As if we were imagining ourselves being a basketball coach, you want to put in your best 5 players, your point guard, your shooting guard, small forward, power forward, center. We need those kind of people in our life. Somebody who points us in the right directions, guards all our hopes and dreams. Someone who's inspirational, tells us to shoot for the moon. If you miss, you'll fall upon the stars, although I don't really like that, but people say that. Someone who's a small forward who makes sure you dot all the I's and cross all the T's. Somebody who's the power forward, who pushes you forward even when you don't want to do it, especially when you don't want to do it. And then lastly, there's a center or a center of influence. And so we all need that. So we position that for my son, but it's based off the people who helped me to get out of Gary, to finally get to college, to then have the opportunity like today to meet with you. But that's really it. I just want to be able to give back, and I can't give back to them because they are either deceased or one's alive, but there's nothing that I could give them. This is the best I could do is by paying it forward.
That's beautiful. So if people wanted to get a hold of you, how would they do that?
You know how to find me, Barry.
I do. I
just have a website. Right now, we're working on trying to find a way to be more visible because I've not done a good job with that. But the website is Nathaniel, Nathaniel, as in Apple, TURNER.com. That's the simplest way. I'm not very good on any social media platform. I have them, but I'm not active as some people are. I'm supposed to change that, I'm told.
Nate, it has been amazing talking to you today. This has been a very valuable conversation. My listeners are going to love this, and hopefully they'll be getting a hold of you or listening to whatever you have out there, any content, and visiting your website. Thanks a lot. If you need anything, I'd love to have you back on the show sometime in the future.
Just say the word. I'm here.
All right, we will go from there. Thank you so much for being on the show. Thank you for listening to the Second Mix podcast. I am Matt Bennett. Please leave a review and give me an honest rating wherever you can. Subscribe on your favorite platform to hear the latest episodes. You can send an email to matt@secondmix.net or go to secondmix.net to read the blog, check out the resources, buy me a cup of coffee, and you can even leave me a voicemail right there on the site. Take steps that will make your week incredible and keep reflecting, revising, and remixing your life. I'll see you soon.